The story goes that 23 years ago, there was a young man with a lot of guts who became a protector of the community by slaughtering the most powerful gangsters in Korea who were always harassing the community. Nowadays, a television station program gathers street fighters, mostly middle-aged men, who were once, as teenagers, legendary fighters of their time. In this television program, the mission or rule is that the participants must be able to knock out professional fighters. After winning the round, the culminating event is that those who qualify will be pitted again to produce the strongest fighter, and will get $20,000 in prize money. The scene then switches to a simple homemade noodle restaurant, owned by a 43-year-old middle-aged man. His name is Im Do-kyu. When he was in school, he was a student boxer, and aspired to compete in the Olympics. But due to some problems he had at the time, Im Do-kyu stopped being a student athlete and became a street fighter. A producer named Hong Gyu-min came to the restaurant and tried to recruit Im Do-kyu. In various ways, Gyu-min explained about his show. But Im Do-kyu still refused, as he was no longer interested in fighting. But when Gyu-min mentioned the grand prize of money if he won the event, Im Do-kyu began to waver and became interested to join the event.
2천만 원에 도전해 볼 만하다.
안 나간다고 분명히 말했습니다.
그거 적은 돈 아니에요, 사장님.
After his meeting, Im Do-kyu went to his mother-in-law's house. He lived there with his daughter named Sobin and also his mother-in-law. His wife had passed away a few years ago. While eating, Im Do-kyu saw Sobin and admonished the teenager, "Why are you brooding?" And sure enough, the next day, Im Do-kyu was called by the school, because Sobin had stabbed his classmate. Im Do-kyu was finally forced to kneel in front of the school teacher and the victim. He also promised to pay all the hospital bills.
내일 오전에 시간 있어?
있어. 화제의 의미로 제가 최대한 성의를 보이겠습니다.
아빠 하지 마. 하지 말라니까!
Seeing his father make such a promise, Sobin clearly did not agree. Sobin knew that his father did not have enough money to pay all this hospital bills. Finally, it was because of this incident that Im Do-kyu agreed to participate in the event that had been offered by Gyu-min.
씨 역시 남자네요.
예?
Elsewhere, producer Gyu-min also invited Im Do-kyu's old friend, who used to be a street fighter, as well as Im Do-kyu's rival, to participate in the TV show. The man's name was Lee Sang-hoon.
평범한 회사원입니다.
씨도 출연하기로 하셨거든요.
But obviously, Sang-hoon immediately refused the offer. Because Sang-hoon is currently working as a manager in a large company. The company was led by a man named Sun Juno. He was also the same generation as Im Do-kyu and Sang-hoon. The boss is, arguably, an alpha male who is too dominant. That's why his attitude is often arbitrary to his subordinates, especially to Sang-hoon, who is often treated like a nothing. Back to Im Do-kyu, where he was already in the studio where the TV show was being produced. Long story short, Im Do-kyu started his first fight.
어릴 적 복싱을 한 거지.
In this fight, Im Do-kyu looks quite stiff because he hasn't fought in a long time. But after receiving an attack on his leg, Im Do-kyu began to increase his adrenaline and was able to counter every attack he received. Im Do-kyu started to get the better than the professional fighter. The people watching were mesmerized. Producer Gyu-min was speechless, as Im Do-kyu was the first person who defeated a professional fighter on the show. After that came the next round, the finals round. This time, Im Do-kyu would face the winner of the other match in the previous round. His next opponent was Shin-ji-suk, who turned out to be an old friend when he was a school street fighter. The battle begins. However, in the midst of the excitement of the fight, Shin-ji-suk tore off his shirt and revealed the tattoos that covered Shin-ji-suk's entire body. Immediately after that, Gyu-min as producer stopped the shooting process. Because Gyu-min didn't want any hidden promotion of the gangster through the tattoo in her TV program. Of course the producer didn't want it to be watched by the public. After Shin-ji-suk wore the clothes back on, the fight resumed. And in the end, Im Do-kyu was the winner and became the champion of the event. The prize of $20,000 was successfully obtained by Im Do-kyu. And the producer Gyu-min offered again for Im Do-kyu to be present in the next episodes as the defending champion. But of course Im Do-kyu refused, because he felt that the prize money was enough to pay off the medical expenses of his daughter's friend at that time.
임덕규 씨,
이제 그만할 겁니다.
며칠 있다 봬요.
When Im-dokyu was returning home, he passed Shinji-suk on the side of the road. Im-dokyu finally approached Shinji-suk. A conversation ensued. The two of them finally started talking about the story of their past. The story then jumps back to 25 years ago, when they were high school students. At that time Im-dokyu was a student athlete who was very determined to represent Korea in the Student Olympics boxing event. He practiced almost every day and for hours on end, in order to fulfill his dream. One day, when he came home late from training, Im-dokyu accidentally saw his juniors being bullied by a group of porch boys. Unable to just watch his juniors being beaten up by the rival school's thugs, Im-dokyu finally came to the rescue of his juniors. One of the punks turns out to be none other than Shinji-suk. This is the first time Im-dokyu and Shinji-suk meet. Predictably, all the punks, including Shinji-suk, were defeated by Im-dokyu. Im-dokyu was finally able to save his juniors. The next day, at school, while Im-dokyu was sleeping in class, he was disturbed by the presence of Sang-hoon and Jinho. They both came not to fight, but to praise Im-dokyu's bravery for his actions. At the same time, there was a commotion outside the classroom. It turned out that there was a figure of Shinji-suk, carrying a brick, barging into the school to challenge Im-dokyu. Shinji-suk still didn't accept his defeat last night. However, it was Sang-hoon, who was then the leader of the school gang, who accepted Shinji-suk's challenge. The two immediately attacked each other with taekwondo-style flying kicks.
나 이 씨발놈아! 아는 애냐? 내 학교에 함부로 들어와.
The story immediately changed. Im-dokyu, Sang-hoon, and Jinho were having an outing in the park. Then Shinji-suk, who seemed to still be dissatisfied with the results of his fight yesterday, came up to the three of them and challenged Im-dokyu to another duel. Not wanting to drag things out, Im-dokyu offered to get himself beaten up and he would keep quiet, so that instead it would be over soon.
끝내자.
After it was over, Im-dokyu invited Shinji-suk to join his friendship cycle. This is where the story of their friendship begins. Jinho grew up, and inherited his father's business and continued to grow rapidly. Sang-hoon, who used to be the leader of the school gang, is now an employee at Jinho's company. Back to the present, after winning the TV show, Im-dokyu became popular and began to be widely recognized. His rapidly increasing popularity has affected his restaurant business, which before viral was always empty of customers, but now, it is so crowded, and have long line. A conversation took place in the kitchen between Im-dokyu and her mother-in-law while preparing the food ordered by the crowded customers. The conversation came to the point that Im-dokyu no longer needed to training, because he would no longer participate in the TV show, even that made famous him. But unexpectedly, his mother-in-law told him to keep joining the show. It turned out that the simple reason, to keep Im-dokyu popular, so that their restaurant would remain as busy as like what happened now. After finishing job in the restaurant, Im-dokyu bought an iPad as a gift to his daughter. Soban has a talent for art, especially drawing. So Im-dokyu deliberately gave her an iPad so that Soban could practice her talent. When a father and daughter were having quality time together at a restaurant, suddenly there was a horde of school children who apparently idolized Im-dokyu because of the TV show. When Soban saw the crowd of students, she suddenly looks awkward and immediately focuses on the iPad. For the next few weeks, Im-dokyu was constantly featured on the show as Im-dokyu maintained his position and remained undefeated. The show's ratings continued to rise, and it grew in popularity across the country. Even his old friend Sang-hoon and Jinho watched his matches and got excited. After the match, Im-dokyu attended his school reunion. There, Im-dokyu was received and treated very well. In fact, Im-dokyu was congratulated by everyone for his success in the TV show. However, the situation suddenly changed, after one of the attendees, who was his junior, brought up the past. When Im-dokyu's school gang bullied them. Im-dokyu was finally stunned to remember all his treatment at that time. The story flashes back to the past. When Im-dokyu was practicing physically late at night, he found Sang-hoon suppressing his juniors. Actually, at that time Im-dokyu did not like Sang-hoon's actions of suppressing weaker people. The day passed, to the day of an important match for Im-dokyu. If he won the fight, Im-dokyu would represent Korea in the Student Olympics. The battle was exciting. From the conditions during the fight, it was actually very clear that Im-dokyu would definitely come out as the winner. However, the reality was completely different. Im Do-kyu was deemed to have lost to his opponent, and had to accept that he failed to become an Olympic athlete in 1988. Not accepting the result, Im Do-kyu's coach, Choi, protested the result. Until he threw his anger in front of the judges' table. In fact, the reason why Im Do-kyu did not qualify was because Im Do-kyu did not have an influential family background. So it was decided that Im Do-kyu's opponent had the right to represent Korea in the Olympics. Im Do-kyu, on the other hand, could not stop crying. He felt completely cheated in the outcome of the match. Immediately, his three friends rushed into the ring to calm Im Do-kyu down. Im Do-kyu was finally discouraged after that incident, and had to forget all about his dreams. Intending to cheer him up, his three friends took him to a bar. But they were rejected by bar security, because underage. Still upset about the cheating earlier that day, and accumulated why the rejection, made Im Do-kyu even more upset. In the end, Im Do-kyu couldn't control his emotions and a fight broke out. Not accepting the students' actions, the real gang there did not remain silent, and all of them immediately beat the youngsters. The next day, Im Do-kyu and his friends brought reinforcements back to the gang that beat them up last night. Another fight broke out. The fight between the real gangster and the school gang began. The fighting continued until the police arrived. Im Do-kyu and the others were finally arrested. The story returns to the present. It can be seen that producer Juman has not stopped trying to get Sang-hoon to participate in his TV show and face Im Do-kyu. It turns out that producer Juman has connections with Jinho. Juman finally persuaded Juno to tell his subordinates to join the TV show. After that, Jinho called Sang-hoon to come to his room. Then Jinho told Sang-hoon to join the legendary battle event. Jinho also said, "I always wanted to see you fight Im Do-kyu." Reluctantly, Sang-hoon agreed to participate in the event. Elsewhere, Im Do-kyu saw his daughter, Sobin, come home messy and injured. Apparently Sobin had been bullied by her schoolmates. When Im Do-kyu asked what really happened, Sobin only could cry. Im Do-kyu was then met by Sobin's friend, who telling that Sobin had been beaten up by school bullies. Im Do-kyu finally went to the school bully in a park. As it turned out, the girl was also part of the gang. It was discovered that Sobin had never beaten anyone, she was just used as a scapegoat by them. They mocked Sobin as a shy girl and took away Im Do-kyu's iPad. The school bully also dared to invite Im Do-kyu to a duel, because Im Do-kyu was famous because of the TV show. Of course, Im Do-kyu refused the challenge. Because of that refusal, the school punks mocked and humiliated Im Do-kyu. Having exceeded the limit of his patience, Im Do-kyu eventually knocked out the punks one by one. The girls deliberately filmed Im Do-kyu beating up all the boys, with the intention that they would become famous too if the video become viral. Fortunately, an acquaintance of Im Do-kyu's caught wind of their bad intentions and asked for the video to be deleted before it went viral. After the matter was resolved, Im Do-kyu returned home. He then apologized for not paying enough attention to his daughter. The next day, Im Do-kyu continued his battle with Sang-hoon. Director and producer Juman seemed enthusiastic and happy that their wish was realized. Moving to the ring, the fight began. It seemed that Im Do-kyu fought half-heartedly at that time, because he had to fight his old friend Sang-hoon. Im Do-kyu chose to give up, and let Sang-hoon win the fight.
따라 좀 무기력해 보이는데요. 저도 공격할 의지가 전혀 보이질 않습니다.
Sang-hoon became the champion, even knowing that Im Do-kyu had deliberately given him easy win. The next day, at the office, Sang-hoon received a rousing welcome and applause from his coworkers for his victory on the TV show. The boss, Juno, was impressed with Sang-hoon's victory, but also realized that Im Do-kyu deliberately gave in because of friendship. Juno said he wanted to see a real fight. Jinho finally called his guards and told Sang-hoon to fight him. Because Sang-hoon was very upset with everything Jinho did to him, Sang-hoon yelling, "Why Jinho never grew up," and then deciding to leave Juno's company.
어디서 죽으려고,
Despite the fact that Sang-hoon was very worried about his family's situation if he had no income right now, Sang-hoon tried to persist in the decision that he had made.
생각하지 말고 네가 학비 걱정을 왜 해? 학비 걱정을 아빠가 언제 하루라도 돈 늦게 붙여준 적이
Elsewhere, during a meeting with his superiors, producer Juman offered a new idea to increase the TV show's ratings. Namely by making a knockout tournament with 8 participants, where later the prize will be increased to $200,000 for the winner. The idea was approved by the television bosses. Promotion was upgraded to a national TV program that would be broadcast live. Advertisements began to air. It featured 8 legendary fighters competing for the championship. Im-dokyu, Sang-hoon, and Shinji-suk were among them. They put all 8 fighters in the same training ground, so they could monitor their progress. In the training locker room, Sang-hoon told Im-dokyu he had to win this time. Vice versa, and Im-dokyu would fight seriously at the event. The story goes back to the past, when they were in prison. Jinho was released because to his father's bail. Meanwhile, Im-dokyu and his 2 friends are still imprisoned. But suddenly a corrupt policeman came into custody and offered the 3 of them. If they want to be free, they must obey all the orders of the gangster leader as a condition. They agreed and were released. The 3 of them were assigned to stab the owner of the building, because he did not want to sell the building. The gangster leader guaranteed that no police would come near the area. Im-dokyu and Sang-hoon didn't want to do it, but Shinji-suk didn't argue. Then the gang leader said that they would wait downstairs and would not leave them. The 3 of them entered the building. Already at the place, Sang-hoon did not dare to do so and immediately ran back down. Seeing that, Im-dokyu chased him down. Arriving back downstairs, neither of them saw the gangster's car.
우리가 속은 거야. 싫으면서 왜 쫓아갔어? 이상아!
They felt trapped. They both went back inside to tell Shinji-suk about this. But it turned out and already happened, that Shinji-suk had stabbed the building owner and his body was covered in blood. Suddenly a police car arrived. They panicked. Shinji-suk told his friends to run, and Shinji-suk was finally arrested by the police. The story returns to the present, where Shinji-suk meet to Im-dokyu at his restaurant. Shinji-suk plans to invite Im-dokyu to meet someone. It turned out that the person was the gangster leader who had deceived him. After being released from detention, Shinji-suk became a subordinate of the gangster. At the meeting, the gangster leader asked Im-dokyu to relent when he met his fighter, Choi Jongman, alias the Turtle. Im-dokyu was presented with an envelope containing $200,000 if he agreed. Without thinking, Im-dokyu took the money. This surprised Shinji-suk, because unlike the Im-dokyu he knew in the past, Im-dokyu usually always refused. Shinji-suk assumed Im-dokyu had been cowed by money. Long story short, the day of the battle arrived. The event was waiting by many people, because it was broadcast live. Sobin came to cheer for his father and hoped that Im-dokyu would become the champion. One by one, the participants fell. Until it was time for the Shinji-suk fight, facing the turtle. The battle began.
경기 시작합니다.
It was clear that Shinji-suk was very serious. He did not want to give in, and did not want to obey the wants of his gangster leader. But in the end Shinji-suk still lost. Even so he tried hard to make exhaust the turtle's energy, when the next match against Im-dokyu could be easily defeated him. But that thought was disproved, because it turned out that the turtle cheated by using doping to stay strong to fight. After that Sang-hoon had also defeated his opponent, and entered the final round. Elsewhere, Jinho, who was watching the TV show, felt sorry when Sang-hoon left, and planned to invite Sang-hoon to join his company again. Although Sang-hoon won and entered the final round, it turned out that Sang-hoon suffered an injury to his leg. Im-dokyu, who saw the condition, advised Sang-hoon not to continue the fight. Still, Sang-hoon did not listen to Im-dokyu and would continue to fight no matter what. It was time for the fight between the turtle and Im-dokyu to begin. The turtle was still very fit, showing no fatigue at all. Of course the doping effect had worked. Im-dokyu looked very serious about fighting this time. He really didn't want to lose to his enemy, even though Im-dokyu had previously taken money, a sign of agreement, to lose if he met the turtle. However, it turned out that Im-dokyu did not accept the offer. Im-dokyu left the money to Shinji-suk to return back to the gangster leader. In the match, Im-dokyu beat the turtle until he was helpless. And in the end managed to defeat the turtle. After winning the match, Im Do-kyu did not want to continue the final battle against Sang-hoon. Im Do-kyu didn't want to fight his own friend. The Juman producer was shocked after hearing that. He was afraid that his program would be stopped by the television station officials. Sang-hoon apparently did not want to continue the final battle. Producer Juman was still uncertain, until Sang-hoon had an idea. What if Sang-hoon was the winner, because Im Do-kyu walked out in the tournament? And when the $200,000 cash prize was obtained, it would be divided in half for them.
잘 둬서 좋겠네요.
약속한 거다.
After that, Im Do-kyu and Sobin were seen together. Sobin said she would go back to school and not run away from her problems. Sobin also promised to be more open with her father, Im Do-kyu. And the movie ended. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy, hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice just to be sure. You should watch the full movie. Thank you very much for watching.